Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Anybody there? Anybody? Well, it's not showing me anybody. Is anybody there? Oh, there's somebody. There we go. Now people are showing up. Okay, so I just posted a video where this was sort of the last visual, talking about the biggest diet fails, how we create diets that fail. And I can go through these really quickly. Overall, I've been using this example of Cindy, and Cindy went on a crash diet, basically, which we've all done, whether we intended to or not. You can start a moderate diet and make it into a crash diet. How am I going to do this? All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to buzz through some stuff and then I'll open it up for questions at the end. I really want you guys to stick around for this, okay? Because this is going to be, I'm hoping this is going to be the best live I've ever done. I really want you guys to learn from this. Okay, so one of the first mistakes we usually make when we are creating a diet that's gonna fail is we start with a lack of data. Okay, what I mean by that is we don't even know what our starting calories are. A lot of the time we start, right? We've been eating one way. This is what's been maintaining our weight where it is. And then we want to eat a lower amount so that we drop weight. But if we set our calories too low, we're going to create a lot of metabolic distress. We're going to end up burning off lean mass. And we're going to set up a scenario where once we go off that diet, even to a level lower or the same than we were eating before, we can easily put on fat mass and not do anything to gain back the lean mass that we lost. All right, everybody tracking? So we need to know what this number is before we decide what this number should be. We need to know where we've been maintaining our weight before we decide where our deficit is going to be. And if you have a question on this topic, you can go ahead and throw it in there in the chat, and I will try to see it. Okay, so stick around, guys. This is going to be a good one. Why is that fuzzy? Does that look clear enough to you guys? Something doesn't look right. Anyways, okay, so the other thing that we could talk about is a lack of awareness. Generally, most people don't want to look at the scale. A lot of times people don't even know what they weigh before they go on a big weight loss journey, which is, I don't want to say crazy because that's pejorative, but it certainly isn't productive, right? And it kind of, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, I'm the best. Thank you, NT Bino. Sorry, my cat is rubbing up against my tripod. Where was I? Oh yeah, so when we are severely overweight, why do we lack awareness of what's going on with our body? Well, usually at some point we lost hope that things could get better. And we're already in a mentally, emotionally distressed state. Does anybody else's cat play with hair bands? Jeez, it's so annoying. Brewmancer. Yeah, so ignorance is bliss. There you go. So you guys are tracking, right? I did this too. Yeah, hair ties all over your house. That's another live chat. We're really putting the live in live chat, aren't we, Chloe? This is live and unfiltered. So, just as an example, right, when I was getting up higher and higher in weight, especially when I got from like 360, I didn't weigh myself. And the next time I weighed myself, I was 380, which then why do I want to keep weighing myself, right? That's horrifying. And then, of course, the next time I weigh myself is when I'm at the doctor and I have to see that I've gone over 400 pounds. Show the cat. All right. And then, of course, after I was 400 pounds, it seemed like I didn't really weigh again until I'd gained like another 20 pounds. So, yeah, nobody wants to see the number. Why? Because, I mean, the reason we stop looking is that we lose hope, right? Did you lose hope? Don't lose hope. Okay. Hey, Janie. Yeah. So, sorry, this cat's really bugging me. I'm going to go put her in another room. I'll be right back, guys. I'm sorry. Come on, Chloe. What are you doing? You're messing with my TikTok. Okay, did everyone leave? No. All right, thanks for bearing with me. How do I know what my current maintenance number is? Okay, so this is where we need to gather data. We need to start taking a look at what's actually going on with our body and what we're putting into it, okay? So obviously weighing in the scale, all that stuff, that's data you need as well. But even before that, what's more important is figuring out what you're eating in a day. So you keep a food journal. This is my preferred method of doing it. If you go online and get a calculator, there's very little chance that it's going to be as accurate as this. So, do you start making changes yet? No. Do you judge yourself when you start writing down everything you're eating? No. You treat this like you're a compassionate scientist who's collecting data. It's not your job to make observations about this or judge it. Imagine if you were like literally a scientist and somebody came in, they were going to be part of a study and you needed to... I just cannot win today. People are screaming outside. Okay. Now, if you were taking the measurements of this study participant and you were muttering insults under your breath about... I'm sorry, guys. This is so annoying. I put the cat in the other room and then she starts clawing at the carpet. Okay, I try not to think of it as having loud Mexican neighbors and more as a cultural immersion. My Spanish has really gotten better. Yes, caught me live. Oh, it's very live. I've got my cat causing all kinds of trouble. My neighbors are screaming. It's okay. I'm Mexican too. And I like to scream, so. Okay, where were we? Good, we've got 40 people here. And this is my worst live chat ever. Okay, we're gonna get this back under control. So, yeah, you're a scientist. You're collecting data, right? We're figuring out how to avoid this problem of ignoring what's going on with our body. We collect data before we do anything. We figure out what our maintenance calories have been. What's the number of calories that we've been eating to keep our weight the same? Because you have to remember that whatever you weigh right now is the result of a long series of processes. If you stop participating in those processes, your weight has to go down, right? You can't hear them. Good. All right. Well, I can hear them and it's distracting. So my preferred method is to keep a food journal, track what you're eating. If you eat really differently day to day, maybe you want to take like 7 days to get a good average. If you eat the same things every day pretty much, maybe 3 days would be enough. And then you take the daily average, and then that's going to tell you not only what your maintenance has been, but what your total daily energy expenditure is as well. Here we go. So the second main thing is using an inappropriate dose. So when I talk about not participating in the processes, right? We're talking about changing our behavior in some way. Think of it as, we'd all love, like, if you could go to the doctor and just take a pill and then lose weight, right? If that pill existed, would your doctor just hand you the maximum dose possible? No, because that could kill you. Or it could have side effects that wouldn't occur if you just started small and worked your way up. That's the way you want to approach a diet. You want to use not the inappropriate dose, but an appropriate dose. And by definition, the appropriate dose is the smallest dose possible that will give you the effect you're looking for. So instead of using an inappropriate dose, we're going to use the minimum effective dose. This is why you hear people say, figure out your maintenance calories and then subtract 500, right? If you're a very small person, maybe you subtract 300. If you're going to start exercising more as you begin your program, maybe you don't cut 500, maybe you just cut 300 and start going for walks. It can be a combination. In fact, it often works out better that way because the more food you eat, the more nutrients you get. And often when you start out, on a diet, you're really just cutting out donuts and crap that don't have very many nutrients. But as you start to reduce your calories, you'll naturally start to veer toward nutrient-dense foods, sweet potatoes for your carbs, stuff like that. And obviously, if you're a few weeks into a diet and you're trying to keep it going, and you need to cut another 100 calories, right? It might be better if you have it in you to get that from activity so you can keep your nutrient intake the same, right? You can create a deficit by doing more or eating less. And usually it's not wise to try to do a whole lot of one just to avoid the other, especially for people. It's totally possible to lose weight all you want, calories only or activity only. But that tends to work better for people who have, say, 10 pounds to lose, 15 pounds to lose, right? If you have a big weight loss journey ahead of you, you want to create your minimum effective dose, usually with some kind of combination. And before you ask, people who say, well, what about when weight loss stalls? What about a plateau? What do? You up the dose. How much? The minimum effective amount. Okay. Basically, generally speaking, slow and steady wins the race. It's like driving on the highway, right? If you don't want to wreck, you make small course corrections. You don't go jerking the wheel every time you notice that you're veering a little bit off course, right? This is very hard to do. Are you using a sock for an eraser? Yeah, I don't have an eraser. Socks work really well. I've been using a wadded up pair of underwear. Now, full disclosure, this underwear has not been used. I bought a pack of underwear from the store, tried one of them on and realized they didn't fit very well. And so then I had this other thing, with like the tape on it and everything. And I was like, oh, this looks like a nice eraser. And it worked really, really well. But then they got way too dirty. And now I have dirty underwear erasers. And so now we're switching to socks. You're late for class. Yeah, well, class was kind of impromptu. So, Miss CJA. Okay, so I have other videos on this. I'm going to talk about this more. I'm working on a workbook. I'm actually typing it out, you guys. I'm creating a workbook for you guys to work through to figure out all this stuff yourself, right? Because can I recap? Well, you can watch the replays at my Facebook group. And plus, it was mostly me like getting distracted by my loud neighbors and my cat. So how long do you go before you decide if you need to up your minimum effective dose? Over time, you'll get a feel for what's the right dose, right? You know, if you're just starting off, the minimum effective dose might be, just very broadly speaking, 500 calories, right? Cut out 500 calories, maybe go for a walk. You know, if you're someone my size, maybe you cut out 600, 700 calories. Because I'm quite big. Even at my goal weight now, I actually weigh 250 pounds right now because I'm putting on weight like a mofo. In a good way. Putting on muscle. What's up? So, as you maybe are a few weeks in and you hit a plateau, and a plateau is not, oh, I got on the scale this morning and I only lost half a pound and I wanted to lose a pound. That's not a plateau. A plateau is when you lose nothing for like 2 weeks at least, okay? Because that could just be water weight. You could be holding on to water weight. And what happens when we get on the scale and 2 or 3 days in a row we don't see it going the direction we want? We freak out. Your stress levels go through the roof, right? If you're anything like me. And this just deepens the cycle that you're in. And you're just gonna hold on to that water weight. And you're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna be tearing your hair out. And it's just, I mean, we human beings, right? We are fairly ridiculous creatures sometimes. I am king of the ridiculous humans. I've definitely done that plenty. So, make sure you're in a real plateau, not just one that you're making up in your head. And if it's been 2 weeks and you haven't lost a single pound, then you can cut out a moderate chunk. Probably not as big as whatever you use to kick off your weight loss phase to begin with, right? So if you started it with 500, you probably don't want to cut more than 200-300 to keep it going, right? And generally, if you were losing like an airplane whose engines went out and you were falling from the sky, right? If you were crashing, then you might have needed to actually up your calories. That could be the reason for your plateau. I have done this too, where you get a nice rate of weight loss going and you're like, yes, I'm gonna be at my goal weight. I'm gonna lose 100 pounds in 4 weeks. And then you hit a brick wall. Why? Because you were probably not eating enough, or you were doing so much activity. It was causing you to just shed weight like crazy. And when this happens, the faster we go, the more problems we're gonna run into. Whether it's metabolic stress, plateaus, losing lean mass, okay? You want to diet your way down the way you would like a pilot to go from 30,000 feet down to the airport that you're landing at, okay? Would you want him to break into a free fall and then try to pull it up at the last second? No, because that's going to be a bad time. You're going to crash. And even if he did somehow pull it off, like, which is basically what I did, I broke a lot of these rules and still managed to pull it off because I guess I was pretty much a stunt pilot at that point. It still was not pleasant, and I don't want you guys to go through that because, you know, when you do that stuff, you take your statistical chances of succeeding and you take them. It's hard enough as it is. It's already kind of, for most people, not people on this live chat, but for most people who start a diet, the chances that they'll actually lose 100 pounds is basically zero, okay? So if you're actually making progress, you want to increase your chances any way you can by making this smart play. And that's all I'm teaching you guys, right? This stuff really, we really can raise the success rates for people up to, gosh, I would love it to be more like 50 to 60%, which that might sound pessimistic, but you gotta understand that would be a massive revolution in what's going on. You can lose weight and build muscle simultaneously. You can. That's a topic for another day. So, the last thing that we were talking about, actually, we were kind of getting there. No plan of exit. This is one of the key things, and it's very understandable why you wouldn't think to do this in a diet, because usually we're so intimidated by the prospect of losing weight that it never occurs to us that having lost the weight could be the most precarious moment of the entire project, right? But we need an exit strategy, okay? It's like I said in my last video, losing weight is like invading a foreign country. It takes a lot of resources, it's easy to overextend yourself, and even if you're very confident of victory, which you should be, otherwise why are you going to war? You need a way out, right? You need to know how to shore up what you've achieved and stop hemorrhaging effort, stress, money, whatever, right? And the way we do this, I'm just going to very quickly sketch this out. Here's you, severely overweight, you need a big life change. You're hoping that you're going to get on TikTok and find John with his whiteboard of truth and power, and it's just going to be a rocket ship to your goal weight, and then done. Happiness forever, okay? But it can't work like this, okay? I managed to do this, but guess what? I put myself into the hospital about here, which I had finally gotten myself to take a break. Oh wait, actually no I didn't. I actually tried to just change things up. And so, this gave me 3 months off, right? You can either take breaks or your body will force you to take breaks, and that's usually unpleasant. So, how does weight loss usually look? You'll be much happier, I believe, if you accept the fact that weight loss looks like this. Okay? It's periods, well, this is a bit steep, isn't it? It's periods of weight reduction, followed by periods of maintenance, followed by periods of relatively stress-free reduction, followed by periods of maintenance, okay? These periods of maintenance are not your enemy. They're not preventing this, okay? These are gonna happen whether you want them to or not. It's either gonna be because you burned out, because you got sick, or any number of things, right? Or just a massive plateau that you run into, right? You only have so much rope to work with, right? You're starting at this many calories, and you only have so many of these increments you can work through before eventually you're doing the most amount of cardio you can do, realistically, without burning out. You're eating the fewest amount of calories you can eat without hemorrhaging lean mass, without burning out, right? And remember, one of the best ways to not hemorrhage lean mass is to weight train. How are you gonna have energy to weight train properly with enough intensity to keep your muscle or build your muscle if you have no energy? Because you're not eating enough, or because you're spending all your other energy on cardio. So, maintenance breaks are not an impediment to your weight loss. They are actually one of the best things you can do for your overall weight loss, okay? And in this diagram, I've drawn them to be about the same size as the weight loss phases, which some people I know have had success doing that. Other people, maybe their weight loss phase is twice as long as their maintenance phase, right? Maybe it's like that. But the longer the better in general. What's going on in a maintenance phase, okay? When you've been dieting down for quite a while, your hormones get out of whack, okay? This is part of the reason why people go on friggin' crash diets trying to help their medical issues, and then they fail and they blame their medical issues for why they couldn't lose weight. Like, if you have a hormonal issue, crash dieting is usually only going to make it worse, not better, which I know sounds counterintuitive because losing weight is probably one of the best things you can do for any hormonal or medical issue. This is why we want to, and here's another principle, okay, write this one down in your notebook. don't be an asshole to yourself, okay? When we crash diet, we're being assholes to ourselves, okay? We are gonna lose the weight by, in so many ways, learning how to be kinder to ourselves. And most of us know what this looks like, but we refuse to do it. Why? Because we think that if we let up, if we're kind to ourselves, that we'll die. That if we don't punish ourselves every minute of every day for being overweight or for not losing weight fast enough or for fill in the blank, you will find any reason to keep doing this to yourself. Why? Because you think you're gonna die if you don't. When you get the courage and the sense of permission to say, no, I'm going to do the thing that's kind for me. I'm going to put my well-being before my weight loss. It sounds and feels counterintuitive, but that's the best thing you can do to start making good decisions and creating diets that succeed and stay successful long after your goal weight is achieved. Because why? Because you're putting your well-being before your weight loss, right? We get the cart before the horse all the time. If you're losing weight so that you can love yourself or so that you can have permission to take care of yourself, this is completely backwards and it's gonna cause a really, really bad time. Where can you send me money for this? Well, I will accept your money. You can, I should have a Venmo or something, huh? Yeah, I don't have a way for you to send me money. I'm not even selling anything right now. I know, it's kind of a shame. You can join the Facebook group and do I do private coaching? Not right now. I really want to. I love coaching people one-on-one. Like I'll sit here, I don't really want to talk to a phone. Yes, all of these are going to go up on YouTube. I find it's much easier to put it on YouTube and then link the YouTube to my Facebook group people rather than trying to load it onto Facebook directly, because turns out Facebook, for being the biggest platform in the world, doesn't work very well. Attending a master class. Yes, you must have missed the part where my cat was knocking over the the tripod. What's my Facebook? Lose Weight with John. It's a Facebook group. You don't have a Facebook. All right. Well, you can stick around here. I'll be, on TikTok. You can also follow me on YouTube. If you don't have Facebook, you have YouTube, right? Okay. So did I cover this? Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, the reason we take maintenance breaks is that if you want to lose, say, 100 pounds, right, or 50 pounds or 200 pounds, and you want to keep it off for the rest of your life, this isn't where you're going to learn how to keep it off. This is where you're going to learn how to keep it off. If you can't keep off the first 25 pounds you lost, it's better to find out here and make those adjustments and shore that up here before you get all the way to your goal weight. Find out you have no idea how to maintain it. You have no idea how to live in harmony with yourself, and then completely blow your life up and end up heavier than you ever were before. This has happened to so many people. I bet half the people on this chat have done this to themselves. I did it to myself. Ask me how I gained 200 pounds that I then had to lose. It's because I lost 100 pounds first. And I did it by motivating myself in negative ways. Yes, you can lose massive amounts of weight. You can beat the odds by doing things in horrible, horrible ways to yourself. Is that going to promote a long-term equilibrium of peace and joy where you keep yourself from diving headlong into those ways of managing your stress and anxiety again? No, it's just a matter, you've just created a ticking time bomb. How long should the maintenance step last? Well, this is different for everybody. It's one of those questions I don't have an easy answer for. Generally, the longer, the better. Let's say you lost, where's my sock? All right, there we go. So let me give you a couple examples, right? I'll give you a better than nothing, a pretty darn good, and a best case scenario, possibly overdoing it, okay? So you lose weight for 12 weeks and you take a break for 2 weeks. Okay? Here's scenario B. You lose weight for 12 weeks, you take a break for 5 to 6 weeks. Here's scenario C. You lose weight for 12 weeks and you take a break for 8 to 12 weeks. Okay? Can you take a break for the same length of period that you were in a calorie deficit? You can do any one of these, okay? I respect scientists who talk about this, and they specifically mention that somewhere between here and here is the most optimal, okay? What I'd really love for you to do is develop a sense of what's happening in your body. The more you do this step, right, and gain awareness and gain a sense of self, the more you're going to connect to yourself, right? When we get into the real deep mental game of this all, it's all about reconnecting with yourself. One of the things people don't realize is that when they've gotten severely overweight, they have often allowed themselves to be, well, not allowed. Life is hard. They get cut up into all these different little pieces, and those pieces aren't allowed to talk to each other and communicate, and you are not allowed to benefit from the wholeness of all the different pieces of what make you you. As you bring those pieces together, you'll get a better sense of what's going on, both inside of you, sort of on a mental, emotional, spiritual level, and on a physical level. It's not perfect. I'm still figuring this stuff out, okay? That's why, generally speaking, we're usually motivated to get back to losing weight, right? Especially if it went well before, we like the way we feel, and we're raring to go, okay? I think there is something to that. I think there is something to your level of excitement. Like if you've taken 2 weeks off and you are just absolutely chomping at the bit to get back into losing weight, ask yourself, is this being motivated by a sense that if I take another 2 weeks, that something bad is going to happen, right? Are you refusing to take a break because you feel like if you take a break, you're going to lose all your progress, right? Because if you're letting yourself be motivated by that fear, what happens when we motivate our decisions out of fear? We tend to actually create the situation that we're most afraid of. But if you get to 2 weeks and you're like, you know what? I feel great. This was a great 2 weeks. I want to start up again. You're the boss, okay? I'm not advising you any which way. I think probably most people would benefit from somewhere in the B range. C might start to be a little bit overkill, but because at some point, you are spending more and more time at an unhealthy weight. We probably wouldn't want to take a year, right? It's but even if you just went sort of 3 months at a time, took a month or two off, 3 months at a time, month or two off, you could be losing dozens and dozens of pounds a year. And yeah, maybe you want to lose 200 pounds and maybe that you break it up over 3 years. Is that actually that crazy? Not at all. 3 years from now, you'll probably be alive because you've been improving your health. And 3 years from now, do you want to be a very skinny, stringy, no muscle, mentally just a mess, just a ticking time bomb? Or 3 years from now, do you want to be cruising, just coasting into your goal weight, already having totally reshaped your relationship with yourself? Probably holding a lot more muscle. You've probably been able to build muscle and keep it on. Your physique looks way better when you get to your goal weight this way. I'm not saying it has to take 3 years, but yeah, I think you guys get it. So it's up to you. Taking a little bit longer on your maintenance breaks is statistically probably going to improve your chances of getting to your goal weight and doing it in such a way that's going to keep you there for the rest of your life. Because we don't just need to learn, we only need to learn how to lose weight for as long as it takes to get the weight off. The rest of your life requires you to be good at maintenance, okay? Think about that. So real quickly, I want to go over my last video where I talked about how do we dig ourselves out of a metabolic hole. We talked about Cindy, right? Cindy went on a 1,200 calorie diet. She burned out, even though she was really strict with it. And she only went up to eating the way she was before, but because she had damaged her metabolism, it didn't bounce back all the way. And it certainly didn't bounce back the day she started eating more. So she actually put on weight. And because of what had happened, this weight she lost in her steep deficit was about 50% fat and 50% lean mass. But when she went to put on weight after burning out on this very low crash diet, what she put back on was nearly all fat, okay? I don't have a schedule for my lives. Maybe someday, but I kind of got to work with my schedule and family stuff. I like doing them in the evening, but I got putting kids to bed. It's hectic. So usually 1 or 2 p.m. Pacific time works best for me. So, where was I? Okay, so most people I find aren't here with no idea of how to lose weight. Most of the people who I see in my comments and in the Facebook group, they're saying, well, I don't know what to do because I tried to drop my calories, but my calories are already so low that I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Or I did an online calculator, and the online calculator said my calories were more than I'm eating now. And if I eat that, my weight's gonna go up, right? So, how do you back up out of the hole? So let's say you are down to 1,200 calories. You are 300 pounds. Oh, no, 3,000. Whoops. Sorry, that's the amount of calories Cindy was eating before she started. So let's say you're 300 pounds and you're 1,200 calories, right? And let's just say for the sake of argument that your body has found ways of lowering its total daily energy expenditure to this level, which sadly can and does happen, okay? And if you raise your calories above 1,200, which is already probably depressingly low, it probably doesn't feel good, you're gonna put on weight. Now, if we immediately move this up to 3,000, you're gonna put on a lot of weight, okay? But if we moved it up to say 1,400, there will be some weight. Actually, it's probably gonna look like this, right? Let's say the weight has been coming down like this, it's stalled out. When you go to 1,400, your weight's gonna do this. Okay, what is this right here? Can anybody tell me? If you are in a severe crash diet and you even add 200 calories of maybe pure protein, and your weight jumps up overnight, is that fat? No, that's water, okay? Especially when you've been stressing your body out, it's probably already holding a lot of water, and it's gonna probably hold on to more water as you start to increase your calories. So, forget BMR. You guys don't need to know your BMR. Total daily energy expenditure, okay? That's what you wanna look at. So, now, after a week or so, this rise in water weight is gonna play out, okay? And over this time, we'd also want to start Cindy being more active, okay? We can increase Cindy's calories more if we can increase her activity more. And this will sort of like like when you're letting out the clutch and putting on the gas when you're driving a manual transmission, okay? It's almost like the more activity is like the clutch. You can put on the gas with the calories and then slowly let off the activity later on as your metabolism speeds up. I hope that makes sense. So, our goal is to get Cindy from 1,200 calories up to as high as we possibly can without what? Without making her gain a ton of fat, okay? Because she's primed to. If we screw this up, this is a bit of a tightrope walk, I'm not gonna lie. This is not a good situation. So we're gonna try to get her up to about 2,600 calories, okay? How we're gonna do that? Well, let's start down here. There's 1,200, and here's 26. We are going to introduce weight training. The problem down here is that Cindy was not stimulating her muscles. Even if she was, there is an amount of stimulation that was going to keep her body from hemorrhaging lean mass at this calorie level, right? For her, she's not tiny, right? This isn't a woman who's 5'2", okay? You know, Cindy, if she's 300 pounds and she's really dieted herself into a hole at 1,200, you know, she might be a little bit bigger than average, like as far as her body structure. Maybe she's 5'8", something like that. Nothing crazy. So we're going to start her weight training. And this is going to help with something called nutrient partitioning. Okay. When bodybuilders go to the gym and then they eat a lot of food afterward, they usually fall into two camps, right? People who have an easier time getting those nutrients into their muscles and people who struggle, right? So this is why bodybuilders they like to start to bulk. They try to put on muscle when they're lean. I know that sounds crazy. This is part of the reason why bodybuilders go through these bulking and cutting cycles. Because the leaner you are, the easier it is. Imagine a set of train tracks, okay? And you know you have that lever, right, that can swing this way or that way and change which way the train is going, okay? When you are bigger, when you have a higher fat percentage, it's harder to get your body to partition nutrients toward muscle growth. It just is. This is one of the many reasons that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer when it comes to physique stuff. It's also part of the reason why once you are at your goal weight, it can get easier to maintain your weight in the long run, especially if you've increased your lean mass. Because the more lean mass you have, it gets easier to do this, right? So just because it's a bit of an uphill climb at first doesn't mean it's not possible. So how do we get Cindy's body to start partitioning nutrients from her increased calories toward muscle gain and not just more fat gain? Here's the question. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. First off, I mean, it has to be said, we have to accept that Cindy might put on a little bit of fat through this process. Hopefully it's less than she would put on if she just went up in calories, okay? There are acceptable losses here. Well, I guess in this case, gains. We have to be realistic. If you've put yourself into this situation, probably not getting out of it, back up to where your metabolism is firing on all cylinders without gaining a little bit of fat. However, that can be, what's the word? It definitely doesn't have to get out of control. And by the time you get up here, you could have things cranking so well that that fat just comes right back off, okay? So we don't want to lose perspective. So by weight training, we're gonna increase the chances of these increased calories going toward lean mass, okay? And over time, we're gonna keep raising Cindy's calories bit by bit. Now, where do we raise her calories from? Do we give her a bag of Skittles and say, here, Cindy, enjoy 200 extra calories? Probably not. Is the body gonna partition straight sugar into her muscles? No, metabolically, it probably would partition that toward fat, even if she wasn't completely dieted into a hole. But in this hormonal environment, it's definitely every single grain of sugar is going straight to her hips. Okay, so same thing to a lesser extent with carbohydrates. Hey, stop it. Sorry, Kitty is eating carbohydrates. I'm just kidding. So, usually someone who's on 1,200 calories usually isn't eating enough fat. So we do want to pay attention to their fat and their dietary fat and get that up for women at least to 40 grams, for men at least to 50 grams, just kind of starting, right? In the first 3 to 4 weeks, I would make this a priority, okay? But on top of that, this is gonna aid that hormonal environment. It's gonna immediately help the body, basically improve the hormonal environment to make it more possible to move nutrients toward lean mass, right? Making sense? So, most of the calories though are gonna come from protein. A lot of people do not realize, even on high calorie diets, even when Cindy was eating 3,000 calories a day, Cindy might have only been eating like 80 grams of protein. Or she might have been eating 120, but 40 of those were coming from the protein that technically was coming in the flour that was making her donuts, right? Like that's probably not very useful protein for your body. Just because the packet says protein doesn't mean it's actually a complete protein that your body can use, right? That's going to come from things like eggs, fish, right? You get the idea. So most of the added nutrients, okay, let's say that this is 1,800. This 600 calories we've added probably came about 15% from fat and 85% from protein. Does this mean she's eating a disgusting amount of protein? No, it doesn't. Because she was probably eating very little food to begin with and very little protein. If she was at 80 grams of protein here, every gram of protein has 4 calories. So this is what's 8 times 4? 24? No, 32. 320 calories right here. And if we added 100 to this 80 and got her up to 180 grams, this would be something like, 720 calories of 1,800. So it's not even half of her daily calories coming from protein. Now, once we get her calories from protein up fairly high, and if she is gaining weight steadily here, we want her to gain weight, right? Because what are we trying to rebuild? Lean mass, okay? So if she's gaining weight during this time as we're putting on calories, that's good. How do we make sure that those calories are being used for building? Well, okay, let's be a little bit more realistic. Cindy's going to be taking waist measurements, okay? Hopefully she's going to be taking measurements in a few different places. Maybe her arms, like if she holds a lot of fat in her arm, like an Italian grandmother, okay, she would measure there. Or like me when I was 420 pounds, I had a lot of weight in my arms. She might measure around her bust. She might measure her navel or like her gut or her butt or maybe a thigh. When I do measurements, I take them in 6 places. Because it gives me, again, it's the same reason I advise people to weigh themselves every day, but only look at the weekly average. The more data points you give yourself, the more information that's going to give you. Leave your grandma alone. Hey man, those Italian grandmas, okay? I always say, like, you're not gaining weight because nobody's shoving brownies into your mouth while you sleep. But if you have an Italian grandmother, that is definitely a possibility. All right. So if Cindy's waist measurement is staying the same or, pretty close to the same, and her weight is going up, what can we surmise this weight is from? Lean mass. And that's what we want. Because for every little bit of lean mass we put back on Cindy's frame, her metabolism is going to go up, up, up. Her total day, this is the one time we'll talk about basal metabolic rate. Her basal metabolic rate will go up, right? Which on top of her other activity will create her total daily energy expenditure, which that number is more important because we need that to match the calories, right? So we increase our calories. It's sort of like Hansel and Gretel, right? The witch left little breadcrumbs, and then Hansel and Gretel had to kind of chase them, okay? And then the witch left a little breadcrumb, and Hansel and Gretel had to chase them, right? This is you're leaving quite possibly literal breadcrumbs for your body. And when your body notices that there's a little bit, oh, hey, we've got 50 extra calories. Your body might get tricked into burning those calories, right? Your body might get tricked into letting you fidget more throughout the day. You might notice that you want to play with your kids or your nieces or nephews more, right? Your body will suddenly release some of that non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, right? The NEAT, all those calories you burn, hundreds of calories sometimes that you burn just from your little things you do throughout the day. Every time you throw down a little breadcrumb, not too far from the last one, your body can get enticed to say, I'm going to go ahead and use that for some kind of activity or for an increase in my lean mass, right? Because if you give it to your body does have a vested interest in increasing lean mass, because the stronger you are, the more easily you can wrestle that saber-toothed cat to the ground and, devour its delicious cat meat. Okay? There is a survival benefit to lean mass. It's just that your body's always balancing against the survival detriment of having lean mass, which is calorically expensive. So if you're constantly signaling to your body that, hey, we are doing just fine. I'm providing for this body. I'm getting plenty of nutrients. Then your body can get lulled into saying, all right, well, I guess I could be convinced to put on a little bit of muscle, I guess, if we're not short of money, right? It's like having an accountant. If you convince the accountant that, hey, look, I'm making more and more money. Why don't you, loosen up, let me spend some more. Over time, it's got to agree. So through weight training, increasing protein first, fat to a lesser extent first. We get to this phase right here. We've added a few hundred calories in not very much time, right? She's putting on weight, which Cindy's going to have to get her head around that. Cindy's going to have to understand that the scale is not her boss. She is the boss, right? We are here to take care of Cindy. And the number, well, it's not irrelevant. It's just that we decide what the number means. We can decide what the number means through anxiety and self-hatred, or we can decide what the number means by seeing it as data and data alone. So once Cindy has gotten past that hurdle mentally, she's now feeling a lot better. She's eating 50% more than she was, right? She's starting to see more progress in the gym. Chloe, get away from the stinking tripod. Is that making sense? And now, once we've gotten her protein up nice and high, remember, this is not your number, guys. This is not your number. Is this your number? No, this is Cindy's number. There's nothing magical about 180 grams of protein. Chloe, get away from the stinking tripod. Good grief. Okay, for you, this number might be more. It might be less. Cindy might get up to 180 and go, gosh, coach, I just don't feel good when I eat 180 grams of protein. Could I subtract 10 grams of protein and eat more fat? I mean, if she's getting a certain baseline of protein, I'd be fine with that. In fact, I'd actually be really happy to hear her ask for that, because that tells me that she's listening to her body. So after we get her protein up high, and after we notice that things are moving in a good track, right? Her fat levels are higher. She's probably balancing her hormones. Her waist is not getting considerably larger, and she's putting on weight in a way that we want. Then, what do we start to add more? We talked about those breadcrumbs. It's actually a pretty good example, because yeah, we can start to introduce carbs fairly liberally, right? Most of the increases in calories basically need to come from carbs and fats. Like if you, people ask me this all the time. Well, what if I don't respond well to carbs? What do you think? You have options. You have 3 macronutrients. You don't have to eat carbs. Carbs aren't magical and they aren't the devil. Okay? If you don't want to eat carbs, then you need to eat more protein or more fat. In this scenario, if Cindy has PCOS and she starts to really feel like her symptoms kick off more if she goes above like 200 grams of carbs a day, then she would simply say, you know what, I'm going to increase my protein and just see how that feels. Or I'm going to increase my healthy fats. I'm going to start eating an avocado once a day, right? If Cindy goes from here to here, all through carbs, and starts to get here and go, gee, coach, I don't feel so good. My PCOS is acting up. I think, I haven't fully resolved my insulin resistance. Say, okay, we're not going to push carbs. I'm not getting paid by the carb here, okay? Let's bring it back down to here for carbs, this carb level. Like, let's say this was 200 grams. And then let's increase this solely through the introduction of some healthy fats. Eat some more nuts. Eat some more avocado. What are some other healthy fats? What proteins am I talking about? Complete proteins, hopefully from animal sources, okay? Now, if you don't like meat, that's okay. Like, you can do non-fat Greek yogurt. You can do egg whites. Egg whites. People hear me say egg whites and they hear eggs. Egg whites do not have fat in them. They're pure protein. And they're probably more bioavailable than whey protein. You can also do whey protein. People say, oh, I don't want to do whey protein. It has stuff in it. It's like, well, which protein are you talking about? Because there's 10,000 whey proteins. Like, yeah, if you're getting it from the bottom shelf at Walmart or the gas station, that might not be the most healthy whey protein on the market. It doesn't mean that every whey protein is just complete, it was made in some factory in Taiwan where they also like make rat poison. Like, of course, obviously you want to pick foods that are healthy and not full of trash. We're all in agreement there, okay? There are healthy whey proteins. What was I going to say? Yeah, and you don't have to be chugging whey protein all day, every day. Here's an example, okay? Let's say you are 300 pounds and your goal weight is 150, okay? And you're eating about 90 grams of protein a day, and we're going to try to get you up to 150, okay? That's 60 grams, okay? Let me show you what 60 grams of protein can look like. Hold on. Okay, we didn't lose anybody. Good. Egg whites. This is a carton of egg whites, okay? You might not want to eat a whole carton at a time, but I ate a whole one of these after my workout today with 3 eggs and some veggies and a couple pieces of whole wheat toast. Do you see how many grams of protein are in that? This thing has 50 grams of protein. Okay, so if you ate half of this every day, there's lots of delicious ways to make it. That's 25 grams of protein right there. Albacore from Costco, 41 grams of protein. No, a lot of people don't like to eat canned fish every day because they're worried about mercury. So if you only ate this 2 or 3 times a week, that's like 120 grams of protein per week, which if you average it out from day to day, what does that work out to? Like 20 grams of protein a day? Tuna packet, right? Let's say you don't want to eat a whole can of tuna. 14 grams in this little tiny packet. I don't know if you can see. Look, this is like the size, I don't know. It's very small, size of something. Beef jerky, like this much beef jerky, tiny little bit you could hold in the palm of your hand. 14 grams of protein, okay? Now, well, Meredith is home. You can say hi if you want to. Okay, so these are just some examples. These are the things I like, okay? You can find types of protein that you like. Certainly, if you aren't against eating meat, well then chicken breast is loaded with protein, right? You can find a lean ground beef, right? If you don't want to eat all the fat with the beef, you can drain it off. Then the beef is mostly protein at that point. Yeah, you can find leaner cuts of steak, like top sirloin is very, well, not very lean. It's leaner than most other cuts. Okay. Does this make sense? So this is how you would slowly work your way out of that hole. You'd eventually get your calories up. Would it work in the same way for everybody? No, everybody's a little bit different. The path might be a little bit different. But this is a general idea of how you would go about it. Okay. Yeah, red meat is very full of nutrients. It gets a bad rap, but there's a lot of stuff that you've heard about weight loss that's not true. And people who vilify red meat, I'm not saying eat red meat all day, every day, but in moderation, it's fine. It's actually really good. So rather than do diets for a short amount of time, you would hold the caloric deficit longer. I don't see how you'd get that from anything I just said. In fact, it's the opposite. Just because you can't, somebody commented today saying, gee, it seems like they were basically talking about using the minimum effective dose to tease out their weight loss and keep stimulating it for a long period of time. They were hoping indefinitely. I said, well, yeah, you can do that. In fact, that is how I avoided plateaus, right? I would overuse the minimum effective dose, right? And that's how I kept my body in a deficit for way too long. And I think I paid a price for it. So no, actually what you want to do, you don't want to go super, super duper slow, because even if you keep your body in a light deficit for a long period of time, the period of time still catches up with you. If you're in a moderate caloric deficit for 12 weeks, or you're in a very, very small caloric deficit for 12 weeks, there's going to be a negative outcome either way. Sure, we could get into the weeds here and argue about how bad the outcome would be. But either way, your body's going to adapt, okay? Over this 12 weeks, your body's metabolic rate is going to go from here to here, or from here to here. 12 weeks is long enough for your body to adapt to either a very low or a moderate deficit. And if you try to beat that by going really low, well, you're actually going to make it worse, not better, as we've discussed. That's what Cindy found out. Cindy tried to get around this by dropping her calories super duper low. And what that does is it actually speeds up the process by which your body creates a new equilibrium, except this way it does it through hemorrhaging lean mass. So either way, your body will adapt, and we want it to adapt. The fact that your body adapts to caloric deficit is the reason it's getting rid of fat, right? Any other questions? I lost my hair. Yes, but that was probably genetic. Fasting. I've used fasting. I think that it can be done safely. I think that it can be done in a way that's productive for weight loss goals. I think that if you are going to do it, you definitely want a doctor to sign off on it. And if you're going to do it, you probably don't want to have it be your sole method of weight loss. Because if you start fasting all the time, it gets tricky. It gets tough on your body, obviously. Yes, there are people who say that if you fast, your body starts releasing growth hormone, which protects all your lean mass. And to some extent, I think that's true. But if we're talking about prolonged fasts for long periods of time, as Dr. Mike Israetel put it, that's why you always hear about the biggest guy in your gym fasting all the time, right? No, that's not what happens. If you want to preserve a lot of lean mass, usually you eat more often. I'm as into biohacking as the next guy, but I've never seen for myself that fasting always delivers purely good benefits with no drawback. I feel like it's going to be different for everybody. However, if you are severely overweight, like let's say you're 400 pounds and you're sedentary, right? And losing some lean mass isn't really your prime concern. That's a scenario where fasting could be either OMAD or 2MAD, like 2 meals a day, 1 meal a day, could be quite beneficial. And it could help you get weight off your body without needing a whole lot of activity, right? If you're not healthy enough for activity, fasting makes a lot of sense because you literally have so few options. And it might get you down to a weight where you're healthy enough to move around. It's not so hard on your joints to go to the gym or to go for a walk. Does that make sense? So fasting is one more tool in our toolkit. It's not without drawbacks, but in certain scenarios for certain people, yeah, it can be very effective. Why do bariatric doctors recommend 1,200 calories a day if it's too low? I mean, you would ask them. I don't know. Bariatric doctors are, by definition, people who make money when people are obese. So I don't know. Why does almost every weight loss guru that's come around over the last 50 years tell people stuff that's wrong? I don't know. Maybe because they don't know better? What if you're diabetic? Well, what about it? For what context are we talking about here? You're just trying to lose weight loss. You're just trying to lose weight at all if you're diabetic? Because losing weight is going to be the best thing you can do for diabetes. Whether you lose it from carb restriction or just a balanced eating approach and adding in a lot more physical activity. Best way to gain mass and lose weight. High protein, lift weights. For fasting, diabetics for fasting. Yeah, I mean, some people have success with fasting because fasting forces your body into ketosis. Basically, when you're not eating any food whatsoever, your body starts producing ketones for you to run off of energy-wise. And this can help people who have like real bad insulin sensitivity problems. It can help their cells rebuild sensitivity to insulin because you take the drug away, right? It's like if you're sensitive, if you've grown in. Can we not? So if you're drinking too much coffee every day and you're just not even getting any effect from it, right? This can happen to your cells with insulin. And if you get rid of the coffee, you can actually rebuild your sensitivity to it. Same thing with fasting, can basically make it so that there's very little insulin in your body, which if you're very insulin resistant, you could still have insulin floating around while you're completely fasted. But over time, this will help your body sort it out, or it can. Does that make sense? Yeah, if I used fasting and keto to encourage my body to become more insulin sensitive. And now I find that I can eat carbs up to 400 or 500 grams a day before I start feeling like I'm having problems with it. I already talked a lot about the diet fails. I spent the whole first part of this live doing that. So go back and watch the replay. It'll be posted on Lose Weight with John on Facebook, or you can go to my YouTube channel, which is linked in my TikTok bio. Okay. Any other I can't see all the questions that were, let me go to the Q&A feature. Okay, someone's just pleading for help. Well, I don't know how to. Do you need help with your taxes? I can't answer that question. Okay, so if you guys want, like if I'm doing a live and you want to ask a question for me to answer, there's a little Q&A box below, and you can enter your questions there, and that way I can still refer back to it when I want to answer a question, and I don't have to scroll through the comment feed, because the comment thing, it just makes it really hard for me to see. If OMAD is what we choose, what should the calorie intake be in that one meal? What should your calorie intake be for the day? That's the answer. Right? And if you can't eat all of your daily calories in one meal, then don't do OMAD. What would be your ideal meal when doing OMAD? This I can answer, okay? So let's think of it in terms of digestion, because when you do OMAD, or, like times when I would play around with like 3-day fasts, the way you come off of that is quite important. You want to start off with some like bone broth, something to just line your stomach, let your body know that you're getting ready to digest food again, get those gastric juices flowing. Then maybe half an hour later, I would eat some lean meat. I usually have like 2 ounces of chicken breast, nothing crazy. I still haven't had any fats or carbs. And then I would, about an hour after that, or half an hour, depending on how fast your digestion kicks in, I would go ahead and have my fatty meat with my vegetables. And if I'm gonna have a carb, I would have it after that. Not kind of, you have an hour or two window to do OMAD, and I would suggest that you use all of that window. 1,500 calorie intake for a 27-year-old female, 200 pounds, 5'2". I would need to know a lot more than that. I can't tell you. What have you been eating to maintain your weight at 200 pounds? You need to know that number. You need to food journal and figure out exactly what you've been eating to keep your weight at 200. And if you stop eating that much and you eat just a little bit less, your body literally will have to start getting rid of body tissue. And if you want it to get rid of fat instead of lean mass, then, create that deficit through activity, especially weightlifting, and keep your protein intake high. Would you lift before or after breaking a fast? I actually like to lift before I break the fast, especially if I'm doing OMAD. I like to exercise super, super fasted and then eat afterward. Other people, they like to eat, digest, and then do their workout. A lot of people do OMAD in the morning. And I think that that's actually a really cool way to do it. You have your breakfast, maybe you have like a brunch, basically. You eat from like 10 to 11. And then 3 or 4 hours later, once you've digested, you can go to the gym and you can do it in a fed state. And then sometimes that forces your body deeper into ketosis and it makes it easier to go the rest of the night without food and wait until the next day. But I'm not an OMAD shill. I don't think it's for everybody. It's okay, but if I'm only tracking calories, can I really eat whatever I want as long as I stay in a deficit? Yes, you can. Now, you will lose weight doing that. But if you're eating garbage calories, if I eat all my calories from Ruffles, from potato chips, is my body getting the nutrients it needs, right? If I'm not meeting my daily micronutrient needs, like all my vitamins, all my minerals, is my body going to feel fed? No. My body can still react as if I'm starving it. So if you are trying to get away with eating nothing but cookies and ice cream, yes, you can lose weight, but you're more likely when you do that to lose weight from your lean mass rather than your fat mass. And you don't want that, okay? So usually, if that's what you need to do to start tracking your calories, then do it. But over time, you want to start, thinking, hey, maybe instead of eating Lucky Charms for lunch, I could have a salad with some beans and some, whole grains or something with a bit more nutrient volume in it. Oh dear. It's weeping and gnashing of teeth in the other room now. Okay, so if you've lost 40 kilograms and you have another 40 kilograms to go, which that would be about 88 pounds, how do you avoid regain rebound? Well, have you taken a break? If you're halfway through and you've lost 88 pounds, 40 kg, your body probably needs to reset. That's like a small child, okay? That's like a 10-year-old that you've lost off of your body, okay? That's a big deal. And it's nothing to just breeze past. Just because you have another 10-year-old to lose doesn't mean that hacking a 10-year-old off of your body wasn't a big change. So you don't want to reward your body for doing that by just continuing to drive it even harder, okay? Give your body a rest. Listen to your body. Am I for hire? Yes, but nothing you want to hire me for. I'm just kidding. I'm not an assassin, I promise. Right now, I'm not really taking clients. I don't really have time to because I'm doing so much content. I am sliding Johnny. I am developing a workbook which should help people work through this stuff on their own. Any other questions? Oh, we got some questions in the Q&A. Oh, here we go. Any advice on gaining weight? I'm 130, 5'6". Yes, watch the replay of this video. I give some good advice on how to gain weight. How can you, and if you're 130 and like really skinny, like you're not fat and you're not overweight and you're really trying to build muscle, you probably would want to get your protein up to at least, 130 pounds. So 130 grams of protein a day would be a good minimum. And make sure if you're female, you want to get at least 40 grams of fat, and if you're male, at least 50. And then the rest of your daily calories can be from carbohydrates. And if you want to gain weight, figure out what you've been eating to maintain your weight and actually eat a little bit more than that, maybe 200-300 calories. And over time, your body will adjust, and you might need to add to that just the same way that someone on a diet would need to keep lowering their calories over time. How can you avoid your body getting used to a deficit? Well, you can't avoid that forever. So this is why we take breaks at some point, but you use the minimum effective dose and slowly drop your calories and increase your activity over time. I'm sorry, can you guys hear the crying 8-year-old in the next room? Maybe I need to be done. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. 1,500 calories. Okay, how much protein for fat loss? 300 pounds, working out. Well, protein for fat loss, you'd want to do 1 gram per pound of your goal weight. So if your goal weight is 200 pounds, eating at least 200 grams of protein a day would be a good idea. Okay, guys, I think we had a good run. I'm gonna go. Yeah, you got the crying 8-year-old. Oh, Seattle Sun. Hey, I remember you from the comments. All right, you're welcome, guys. It's not going to be free for long. Don't worry, I will start charging you exorbitant amounts of money for this. So get those second home loans prepared and sell all your worldly belongings and get ready to give it to me. This is only the first steps in starting a cult. Yes, you all have to shave your heads. No one is allowed to have more hair than me in this cult. All right, just kidding. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, guys. This was fun. Sorry I was a little bit distracted today. Very distracted. But you know what? Stuff happens. We overcome. We adapt. All right. Keep your heads up. Hope this was all helpful. Thanks for joining, Janie. And Jennifer, and Emily, and Big and Wiggin. Sorry you joined too late. The replay is going to be on my Facebook group. Lose Weight with John, link in the bio. You can also subscribe. Everybody go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Once I get up to like 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I can start doing a lot more stuff there. I can start doing YouTube lives as well. So, all right, guys, you have a good, Wednesday? Have a good Wednesday. Talk to you next time.